Broadcasting from the Penguin Air Plumbing and Electrical Studios, we are your hosts, Will Hallett and Wade Rusk, and this is the Penguin Pro Show. The Penguin Pro Show is an informative podcast talking about air conditioning, heating, plumbing, and electrical systems in the home. Each week, we bring on a panel of professionals to educate listeners on different topics related to these systems. Today on episode 24, we're excited to have Jeff Frye in the studio, along with Jay Klein. As always, Jay, good to see you.
Same.
Can't go without introducing you.
I tell you.
I mean,
nobody knows me. Got to introduce me.
You're the most consistent one that comes on the show, I think, these days.
Jay who? What's that last name again?
Yeah, Jay Klein, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everybody.
Very good.
And that's why we have the line of chapstick, but followers, listeners, just go back a few episodes, you'll know why.
Yep.
And then Jeff Frye is our new HVAC service manager. He's been with us over a year now, right?
Coming up on 2 years.
Here at Penguin Air Plumbing and Electrical, coming on 2 years.
Yep.
Jeff was our comfort advisor, which he's been on the show a few times, talking about, new systems in the home, what we do there, and how we help customers make their homes comfortable and cool. And we are so ecstatic to have Jeff going into this new role that he's going to conquer and really do a good job in training and making these technicians even better than they are now. And we're excited to have you.
I'm thrilled. I'm super excited to have this opportunity and work as part of the team and get a chance to know the techs even on a deeper level.
Yeah, you're going to do a great job. I think you fit culturally, and that's what the biggest part is here, is just growing with the people that are going to do the things that we want to do in the future. And we're excited for you. I know Jay and I have been meeting quite a bit, and we're like, that name just keep coming to the top,
Yeah.
right? Right, Jay?
Yeah, well, and I mean, for everybody, too, to kind of a little bit of history. So about 9 or 10 months ago, we made the move to field supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of helping out on that side and really, starting to take some of the leadership roles out in the field. And, he's done great at it. And, of course, that was obviously the next step after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super exciting. I actually ran service, or I didn't run service, volunteered to run some service calls during the weekends, just to kind of get reacclimated to what it's like being back in a truck and you're working with the tools. It's just a different perspective than being in just sales.
Right. I did see that. I saw that you were carrying gauges again and starting to do a little bit of service, and I was like, oh, he still got it. Not just a salesman anymore. But, I mean, listen, listeners, we have such a great team here at Penguin, and that's why we do this show. We would like to get this show out to all the, listeners that are listening now, but to family, friends, other homeowners, your neighbors. We talk a lot about good things that we can do in your home. One of the things that we're going to be talking today about is we're in the season of seasonal heating maintenance right now, right? I think that a lot of people don't think here in Arizona that you really need to tune up your furnace, but it is very important because it isn't used a lot, and sometimes it does get cold. We turn it on, and sometimes it doesn't turn on, right? And it's an open flame if you have a gas furnace. We do have heat pumps here in Phoenix, but one of the things that we want to look at is all the safety around those furnaces. I think if I think of a furnace, like it's more of a safety thing to me, of making sure it's checked out. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I mean, and just kind of like you said, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is we don't use our furnaces a lot here in Arizona, right? I mean, they end up getting used every winter. It's very rare to not use it, not kick it on. You need it at some point. I mean, heck, next week, I think we're starting to get into the 40s as our lows towards the end of next week. So it's going to start getting cold enough where you're going to need it, kick it on in the morning, get that chill off. And that is the biggest thing, is that furnace sits for such a long period without being used, without being cycled, without stuff being moved really in it. And like I said, most of these furnaces sit in the attic, somewhere in the garage, but a ton of them are up in the attic. And it's literally a controlled fire in your attic. I mean, there's full-on yellow, blue flames up there when it kicks on. So there's a lot of safeties involved, and there needs to be a lot of safeties involved, of course, to keep the family safe, keep the home safe. So that's the biggest thing, is making sure none of those safeties have been used. the furnace hasn't been kicked on. Make sure it's cleaned out. Make sure it's good to go. Make sure it's running properly. And then we go through and actually test the safeties. We shut stuff off in the system to make sure that the safeties kick in and do what they're supposed to do. We make sure that sometimes the actual gas doesn't light and just dumps gas, but make sure that safety kicks in and shuts off the gas because it realized it didn't light. So we do a lot of stuff like that. We overheat them to make sure that they shut off before overheating and literally going into meltdown mode. So we do all that stuff on them, and we really run them through their paces to make sure that if anything fails on it as well, the safeties are going to be there to back up and make sure that you and your family are safe in the home.
Yeah, because we do focus on air conditioning here quite a bit, but I think homeowners need to know that if we're going to have a cold winter, we haven't had one. I don't think we've had one in a while. So if we have a cold one this winter, which it seems like it's they're predicting a colder winter.
Yep.
You turn that on, that furnace has been sitting, for a while. Yeah, the blower uses the air conditioning side uses the blower, but other things can build up dust, hairs, things like that. That might need a cleaning after a few years of not using that furnace, and they're going to start to smell those smells that we smell right when they first turn it on. So those are good things. We really recommend you having a furnace tune-up even in Phoenix, Arizona. What is it, Jeff? What are the kind of the steps that we take, technicians that get to the home to do heating tune-up? Do we have a checklist? Is there something that they're going over with the customer once they do the tune-up?
Well, as Jay mentioned, I think the key word is safety. They do have a checklist, so they're going to, they should be getting to the home. They're going to go over the agenda with the customer, let them know exactly what they're going to be doing. If the unit's in the garage or in a closet, they're going to turn the unit on into heat, just verify that the temperatures, everything is working correctly. Then, like Jay said, they'll go through a checklist and actually turn off features to make sure those safeties are in place and working properly. And again, that the safety to me is the key word, especially on a gas furnace. And then subsequently, there's a decent amount of heat pumps still here in the valley, which are still important because that is just your AC in reverse. And because it's not used as often, sometimes TXVs, certain components,
valves.
Correct, could get stuck or there could be issues there. And again, we're not necessarily worried about freezing the home out, but again, it's making sure that AC system as a heat pump is functioning properly so that when the cooling season comes back around, it's ready to handle that load.
Right.
So there's not just the furnaces as well, but it is important to look at heat pumps as well.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, there's a pretty big, in a sense, season for the heat pumps because, they made it through the summer, right? They worked air conditioning all summer long.
Double.
And a lot of people think like, oh man, I made it. I made it through my AC made it through the summer. We're good to go. Well, they don't realize that every single part that runs in the AC on a heat pump runs in the winter. So there's literally 100%. It runs identical almost, other than some things switching in the system to switch pressures and refrigerant cycles and, getting technical. But it just literally reverses pretty much kind of the flow of the refrigerant to bring the hot air inside, instead of like it was doing outside in the cooling season, cold air inside in the AC and then cold air outside in the winter. So it just really switches and it's running. So yeah, you put a lot of wear and tear on it through the summer. You might have made it through the summer, but guess what? It still has to run through the winter the same way it did through the summer. Really? So there's a lot of wear and tear that goes on it. And then you really realize that at the end of the year, because of the wear and tear from the summer, things still fail in the winter.
So for listeners, let's back up a little bit. For heat pumps, especially here in Phoenix, in the desert areas, the mild winter areas, you're not going to have, you might have a heat pump with dual fuel, but listeners that have no gas in the home, have no gas here in Phoenix, they will usually have a heat pump. So you listeners here in Phoenix that don't have gas, you do have a heat pump.
Yep.
And that system does run, if it's a cold winter, that system's going to run a lot more than a gas furnace would. So it is important to check that as well. There is a lot of valves. There's a lot of things that can get stuck that, like Jeff was saying, that it will have problems. Their flow of refrigerant, because that refrigerant is what now heats the coil.
Yep.
So for listeners out there, that refrigerant, the Freon, what a lot of listeners know it as, is heating the coil now. So that coil is getting hot, and the air goes through the coil, and it heats the air. Well, in AC, it gets cold. So those things, and the pressures could be low, the refrigerants could be low. It's not going to heat as well. It's going to stay on longer, and it can ice up, right? We get those calls.
Yep.
Well, it's interesting too, because sometimes you'll see with customers that they know there may be an issue or there's an existing issue in the summer. Hey, I just want to get through summer. They get through summer. They kind of go through the week we're having now, where you're turning your system off, everything's great, but that issue is still there. So then when you go to try to heat when you actually need it, that's when it shows up. So it doesn't go away. You can't just wait until next summer to deal with it for the AC. It's still, like Jay said, everything, all the components are still working, just reverses that cycle, transfers the heat differently. So if there is an issue, it's going to show up.
It will. Well, Jonathan, did you have a comment?
Well, you covered really kind of what I wanted to say was, in layman's terms, define what a heat pump is and who has it and who doesn't.
Right. A lot of people don't know how they work.
But I would say one thing worth talking about real quick too is because I know we get more than a few calls during the winter when it gets quote unquote Arizona cold, is somebody with a heat pump calls and says, hey, it's not heating. It's not getting warm enough. But I know here, from my layman's perspective, there are limitations of a heat pump.
That's right.
And then there's options.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
And not only limitations, but that's a great point to bring up, Jonathan, because it's not really even limitations. The unit can be working as designed. It usually is working as designed. But one big difference about a gas furnace is a gas furnace puts out really hot air. We're talking 120 degree air coming out of your vents. Really hot air. Like you put your hand up there, you can feel this is hot air coming out. Your heat pump, though, is only made to roughly put out 20 degrees warmer air than what's inside. Say it's 70 degrees in your house, right? It's putting out 90 degree air. Your body temperature, right? We all know what our body temperature is.
Yeah, 97.
So your body's actually warmer than the air coming out. So you put your hand up there and it doesn't feel warm. It feels like a coolish air. And you're
That's
like,
a good point.
This thing's not working, right? It's not. How's it heating my house? But it's actually putting out 90 degree air and heating the house because it's 70 inside. But they're only designed to do about 20 degrees, 22 degrees. So that is one big difference that you'll see. And then another one that we get a call on a lot is, of course, a defrost cycle. Defrost
sounds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Defrost cycle, it makes a crazy loud
Jet hanging on.
clunk, bang noise, and then, a jet taking off in the middle of that. And then it kind of comes back down from that. And while it's doing all that, it's blowing ice cold air into the house. So heat pumps are weird. We're like really one of the only climates that has heat pumps because we have such a mild winter. But what they do is literally the heat pump while running in heat starts to freeze up. Sounds completely backwards, but to thaw that down, it's designed that the system will actually kick into air conditioning for 3 to 5 minutes ballpark. I think it's most 7 minutes, 9 minutes, depending on what unit, and then it'll actually automatically force
so
out of it.
taking the heat out of the house now.
So it's literally blowing air-conditioned air into your home for about 3 to 7 minutes to thaw down, and then it'll kick back into heat.
And customers might not understand that, Jay, because what a heat pump's doing in that process is it's taking the warm air in the house.
Yep.
Taking it back over the coil. And then transferring it to the outdoor coil.
Right. Yeah, I've always told customers that if you go outside in the middle of summer and you put your hand above the condensing unit, you're going to feel some extremely hot air.
Right.
You have hot gas in that outdoor coil. That fan is drawing the air in, and the air is transferring, is picking up that heat from the coil, and then it's dispersing on top of it. In a heat pump, that's just reverse.
Now it's cold.
That hot gas goes to the indoor coil. That fan blows the indoor air across that coil. The heat transfers to the air, and that's how you're getting your heat. Well, subsequently, that outdoor coil now will freeze up because the saturation temperature of that refrigerant goes below freezing. So you can actually go outside in the middle of winter, colder nights or colder days, and see ice build up on the outdoor coil. So the unit, to protect itself, goes into that defrost.
Right.
I don't know how you guys have dealt with this, but some of the very, very cold days, and I know it's rare. I'm from Ohio,
I'm glad you're going here. I think I know where you're going.
When it's below 30 degrees, and it doesn't happen very often, I've actually told customers sometimes it's better just to turn your unit off, wrap up with some blankets, and then wait until it gets a little warmer in the day, turn it back on. Because that unit will just short cycle. It'll start, freeze up on the outside, turn back into AC, and it will never catch up. And it's just going to short cycle and run constantly.
Now, what else they can do, Jeff, and what I've been told as well, Jay, is if they know it's going to be a cold morning, watch the news, right? It's going to be cold the next 3 days. It's just leave it on. You're not going to, like a gas furnace, be able to wake up in the morning and turn it on and take the chill out.
Yep.
That's when it will start to go into defrost modes because it's the cold air in the house is you just can't heat it up. So that's what I've been told is if you know it's going to be a cold couple days, just let it cycle for that whole time.
Yeah, leave it on throughout the night, or even set it so that you program it so that it comes on at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Because the problem with the very morning why they start to freeze, of course, you have one, of course, it's the coldest part of the day, right? Right as the sun crests up, that's the coldest part of the day. And then along with that, you usually have like a morning dew or a morning frost, that moisture that's already in the air, which now adds to it and really starts freezing up that unit. So heat pumps are really only efficient to about 42, 43 degrees on, depending yet again, manufacturer and all that. But as a ballpark, once it starts to get under there, they do start to struggle. So yeah, kick it on a little bit earlier, in the night, let it do that. Because like I say, it would be just the same thinking about it for us in Phoenix, how we know. It'd be like trying to come home at the end of the day when it's 120 out and kick on your air conditioner just to take, some cool air real quick. You're like, that's not going to happen. It's going to take this thing 3 hours to cool down. Same thing that'll happen in heat pump. That coldest part of the morning, it's really hard to now warm up your house, take the chill out of the air. Gas furnace, you can do it all day long. That thing will dump out the same 120 degree air no matter what.
Right. So this is great education for listeners, especially here in Phoenix. This is always a topic that we have to even go to our call center and remind them and train them when people call in. Because, like you said, Jay, that those sounds making those noises, it's people think that their unit's has issues, right?
Sometimes we get it's on fire because another thing that's
Smoke.
paired with defrost
Steam.
is it looks like smoke's coming off of it. It's actually steam because that outside is getting hot enough to start melting that ice and actually turning it into steam.
Right.
And then the fan kicks on and it looks like now my unit made tons of crazy noise, blew cold air, and now it's steaming, smoking. It's like things on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, we get some funny phone calls during the wintertime.
Yeah.
So you homeowners, it's okay, but we will come out and check it out. If it's not keeping up, even in 40, 50 degree temperature, like we're having some 50s right now, that's probably a good time to start looking at your heat pumps right now because they're probably low on refrigerant. You probably have some kind of other issue if you feel like you can't even get any heat out of it much. And then with gas furnaces, it's more of a safety issue, which we talked about. It is a controlled fire in that box.
Yeah.
So this is why we want customers to really realize in Phoenix that it is time to start looking at those things before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and another thing to jump on, of course, gas furnaces that everybody's of course scared about is carbon monoxide. So the guys do have to have testers in the field. Not all of them do. Because some of them are trained to use it and not. So if there's any worries, let the office know when you call in, and we can send out one of the guys that actually is trained to use the carbon monoxide detectors that they have. It is pretty rare anymore with the new furnaces. They're built really well, stainless steel heat exchangers compared to the older ones that were more prone to crack and had more issues. But the newer ones, not quite as much. We probably only get as a company maybe one a year that we have to actually, say, hey, listen, there's carbon monoxide issues. We need to shut it down.
Yeah, look at those older homes, Jeff, that, there's a lot of older homes built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And now in the 80s. I mean, the furnaces have really come a long way.
Yeah.
They have, and it's important to know, too, especially if you got a furnace in the attic, as those attics heat up, those safeties, could potentially break. And that's why it's important to have them tested. Even the dust. I mean, we all know Phoenix is very dusty. The dirt and all that stuff takes its toll on these systems. Something that I was always taught back in Ohio is even spiders love making nests around the gas valves. So sometimes all it takes is a spider web. That could be that spider web could block off a port or two for that system to fire up that doesn't fire up, but now you have no heat. So it's, again, safety, but it's also just wear and tear, the environment that we're in. It's really important.
Yeah, again, as we tell listeners, it's like a vehicle. These things need to be maintained to let them go years and years. If not, you're going to shorten the life of that system or have some safety issues.
And like I say, just because you don't use it doesn't mean you don't need to maintain it, right? I mean, there's a reason they say your oil change is good for, used to be 3 months or 3,000 miles. Well, because the oil's sitting there, even if you're not using it and you just start it a few times and only drive 500 miles, oil will actually start to go bad and thicken up on you. So that's why you still time-wise need to change it out because, only lasts so long. Same with the furnace. If you don't use it, you still need to get it maintained and make sure that 1 or 2 times you kick it on, it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Real quick question.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Where do and once again, from a non-AC familiarity standpoint, where do heat strips on a heat pump come into play as far as maintenance? Is it available? Is that an upgrade? I just want a house warmer. Where do those come into play on a maintenance or on an upgrade or something like that kind of situation?
So, I mean, the heat strips are a little bit more rare in Arizona. They are just a strict 100% electric heat. The easiest way to think about it is your glow coils that glow red in your oven, your electric oven. Those things will pretty much be what's in your unit that blows air across them, and that's how you get heat from the heat strips. But they are starting to upgrade them in some of the houses because what it will do, that defrost we talked about earlier, when it kicks on into air conditioning and blows that really cold air, some of the newer units are made to actually kick on those heat strips to temper the air. It's still not going to put out warm air, but it's not going to be ice cold air anymore. It's going to be at least kind of a tempered air. So that's where they come in usually.
Yeah, they're Mr. Rust has joined us here. Hello, Mr. Rusk.
So I can't get in my office. I'm being told I'm fired. I'm being told I'm a CSR.
Okay.
What is it?
Sit down in the CSR room. We'll have training for you shortly.
We're first putting you in as a CSR, but we figure we're going to have to end up firing you because it's not going to work. That's where they were getting with that one. Yeah.
Could be an install helper next. Interesting to note, too, going back to heat strips.
Back to business?
A little bit, yes.
Good morning, Mr. Russ.
Good morning.
You're going to regret officing out of here now.
He's the new electrical manager, by the way.
Yeah. And janitorial manager,
Custodial manager. Sounds like
Service manager and electrical manager?
and custodial manager.
I thought you was custodial.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess I wasn't.
Oh, and
aware.
Rusk is going to CSR.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to training. Apparently,
He's mopping up the competition.
I'm anxious to see this new org chart. When is that coming out?
I love it. Keep this in the show. I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So heat strips.
Well, I was just going to say it's interesting. If you do happen to have a heat strip on a home, that will become your emergency heat. That could turn on, heat your home, but there still may be an issue with your heat pump.
Right.
So these are things that you really kind of take a look at. And a lot of times you'll see that is because of the heat strips and the nature of them, they use a lot of amperage. They use a lot of electrical current to heat those strips. Sometimes
Very inefficient.
They're extremely, a long story. My mom, who lives in Ohio, they didn't want to run gas to a retirement neighborhood because of the safety issues. So she has a heat pump in Ohio.
Ew.
Cool.
Oh, they have real winters.
They have real winters.
Wow.
Seasons.
Her electric bill is astronomical every year because that's what she uses to heat her home are those heat strips.
Yikes.
I regress.
Yeah.
It's a really big toaster in essence.
It is absolutely.
It looks
like a big hair dryer.
Yep,
Like a
It
blow
does.
dryer, yeah.
Exactly. It looks the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do the backup heat strips. A lot of mobile homes, retirement areas have those as backup heat because we know that mobile homes aren't the best insulated homes. So
But that's something to take a look at it because if you notice during the winter that if your electrical bill spikes, it could be because there is an issue with your heat pump. And it's just you're heating your home just solely with the heat strips.
Right.
What percentage, if you had to guess, have heat strips?
I'd
Oh,
say
slow.
so your heat pumps we're down 40% heat pumps?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the heat pump capital of the United
Yeah.
States here in Phoenix.
So I'd say around 40% of the units
Yeah.
are heat pumps, somewhere in there. And then of that actually have heat strips, 10%.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to
it's
say
that.
7.5.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the retirement areas do, is where I see them.
Yeah.
And then going back to the furnaces, maybe just because of my nature and what I tend to look at is, hopefully, unless you've had us servicing your equipment, Getting up into the attic, because during the summer, a lot of times, not everybody's going up in the attic when they do a checkup on a system. Those are great times during this time of the year when you're up there looking at the furnace to see if there's any additional issues potentially with the home, the ductwork, the insulation. So that's also a great time. So, if you've never had Penguin Air up there, other companies may not have gone up in the attic.
Right,
They
they
may
don't.
not have
They're
been
lazy.
able to see other issues. Our techs are trained to go up there, take a look at not just the furnace, but also insulation, ductwork. So there's some potential issues that they could
There's
alleviate.
always something.
Yeah, that's a great point. 'Cause, I mean, we really won't even do most big duct jobs or attic jobs in the middle of the summer. I mean, one, it's just beyond brutal on the guys to
Kill
try
'em.
and do it, and we're really busy trying to keep everybody air conditioned. So we usually save those jobs for this time of year when it's a little bit better up there.
Well, I know I'm always told not to talk about this piece, Jonathan. But with our maintenance program here at Penguin Air, and I'm not promoting it, I'm just saying, yes, I am promoting it. Because it's easy. Set it, forget it. Get on our maintenance program here at Penguin Air and Plumbing and Electrical. We'll come out twice a year for your heating check, cooling check, or actually have another, you can get on that program, which is going to be a new program next year, just our AC program and heating program. And then we also have our Penguin plan that has all 4 checks, which is safety checks. They're all safety checks, right? Electrical safety checks, plumbing safety checks. Plumbing, you can flood your home. Electrical, you can burn your home. All those currents running through, if something's not right, if it's not clean. Panel problems, dirt. And we're seeing a lot of that now with our new electrical department.
Yep.
That Jeff is,
In charge of
guess-
it
Down the manager.
I guess he's the manager of.
after I mop the floors.
I'm mopping the floors.
Oh, that's right.
I'm
I'm
mopping
sorry.
the floors. Yeah.
Confused.
Well, Britton, we
And
don't
then-
need you anymore.
One last thing too, maybe because you brought it up, but one of the things now as a service manager that I've always looked at as very important is educating the customers, giving them information. So as part of the maintenance plan, part of what our techs do is they're going to go out there, they're going to do a thorough evaluation of the system. They're going to see if there's any potential immediate issues that need to be addressed. At the same time, they're going to look at potential enhancements. They're going to be either beneficial for the home, the homeowner, the air, air quality, air flow, to deal with efficiency on the system, protect the system. And I think it's one of the, when I first came here from Ohio, concerns was, well, there's a lot of companies in this valley that just are always, you need this, you need this, you need this. And one of my goals, I think, as service manager is to make sure that we're educating our customers the need versus
Yeah, I get
The
it.
recommendation, right?
the recommendation. And I think it's important for homeowners to understand there are 15 to 20, and we could probably sit here right now and list off all these potential enhancements that are beneficial for the system safety, for the system efficiency, for the homeowner, for air quality, for airflow. And it's not that we're trying to push all of those on you. We should look at each home individually. They should have conversations with the customer, find out what the customer needs are, and we just want to make sure the customer is being taken care of. And part of that is educating the customer. And so when they go out there, they're going to probably recommend potentially, hey, these are things that are going to be beneficial for you and your family, not just, again, for safety issues, but for efficiency and comfort.
Yeah, and if you're on our plan, it's consistent. You develop a relationship usually with the technician that comes out to your home. So you have a trust factor there. And yeah, we're not going to recommend anything you don't need.
Correct.
Is there always anything you enhance, especially with technology today? Becoming more efficient in anything you want, your home, smart homes, your cars, everything is now, there's so many enhancements. And it's the same thing that we can do with the home that you are in, 3/4 of your time, So it's important that homeowners do know that these options are available, okay? And we're going to give you those options, but you don't have to do those options. We're just going to educate you on them. So great show today. I know that we are excited again to have you as the HVAC manager.
Jeff's first show is an
HVAC.
HVAC manager.
I know he's been on a show
And
a few
electrical
times.
manager, and my first show is a custodial manager. But
And then real quick, we didn't touch base. I think the last time we were on here, we touched base a little bit on fantasy football.
Oh,
How's that going?
I'm 5-4 right now. I started 0-4, and I've been on a win streak.
I don't know exactly, but I'm probably winning.
I don't know
I'm
about
actually
that,
not. I'm not. Here, let me pull out my phone. Let
Well,
me
I was gonna
see.
say,
I
if you
can-
ask Christopher,
I'll look right now too.
So, but I don't know if that's true or not. But if
Okay.
you ask
So
Christopher,
for you
he's-
listeners, we had a podcast, a show with our fantasy draft, football draft, and
Let me see.
there's
standings.
$100 on the line.
The standings has Britain winning.
Oh wow!
So Britain is in the lead. Christopher is in second place. And then there's a lot of people tied after that.
Where am I at? Oh, I'm 5-4. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you guys, I went 0-4. I want you to know this. I'm on a 5-game winning streak right now. I don't know what happened, but I'm beating all of you now consistently the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not involved in
I
that
know.
particular league. I'm actually in a league with some plumbers, a couple techs. I'm right on the cusp of the playoffs. So, well, I guess an update will be needed in a few weeks to see if I can make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fun. These are some of the fun things we do here at Penguin Air Plumbing and Electrical. A lot of the things we also talk about is the people shortage here in the industry. It's always going to be a problem. But we want listeners that are in the industry as well. Come check us out. Come take a tour of the building. No obligation. You know, if you're in the trades, you want to look at what we can offer you, great. We have a fun time over here. We also, you know, I think we pay better than anybody else in the industry.
Yeah.
So we want you to take care of your families, yourself, and also the customer. It's win-win-win. And, you know, check
Well,
us out.
I think, if I can say so, just 20 years in the business now, this is the best place I've worked at.
Awesome.
Just an amazing environment. People that I work with, the team that we have in place, I love it. So I think that anybody, if they're looking to make a switch or in need of a new job, yeah, please come in, talk to us.
Yep.
It's a great environment. It really is.
Thanks for saying that, Jeff. Appreciate that. And thanks for coming on the show today, guys. For you listeners, also, you can find us on all sorts of different podcast recording areas. What do we got? We got
So we got Apple, we got iHeartRadio, we've got Spotify and YouTube. Obviously, the video is always on YouTube, and then the audio on one of those other platforms. And I always want to say there's one other audio platform, but it always eludes me because it wasn't what I was familiar with. Anybody?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know which one you're talking about, but I can't remember.
Okay, so I'm not just imagining
Yeah.
things. but
It's just for
something-
podcasts.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But look out on social too. We promote the show there.
Off our website.
Off our website as well,
Yeah.
penguinpros.com.
Yep.
So yeah, check us out. We're going to be doing more of these shows. We had a little pause there for a little bit,
Yep.
but we're going to get back at it.
Goals coming in the new year is to actually be weekly with a podcast.
That's right.
So that's what we're
Very
looking
nice.
for. So we'll have some good content.
Okay.
Do some fun stuff.
Yeah, let's have a lot more fun too, Jonathan.
Okay.
Penguin fun.
Done.
All right.
No,
Yeah.
I'll fire up the grill.
There you go.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great,
Thank you.
have a great week.